Okay, so we will start the course. And my name is Pedro Ojeda. I'm working at HPC2N, a High Performance Computing Center North in Sweden. And uh, this course is an attempt to give you an insight of what is HPC2N and also and how to use our system. As you can see, we will start from a basic Linux introduction, so that if you come from a different operating system, you can get the first steps into how to use Linux, because Linux is the operating system that is used in our cluster. Uh, in the second part, my colleague Mirko will talk about the architecture, the resources that we have at HPC2N, and also he will give you a overall view of our HPC2N center. Later on, my colleague Birgitte Britze will show you how to submit your jobs, your batch scripts, and also how to run and compile some easy code, so that you have an idea on how to use that if you have your own code, for instance. And finally, I will talk about how to use the most common applications. There are plenty of applications that you might be using, but I will talk about here on the most common, such as Gromax, Amber, and NAMD, and also TensorFlow R, for instance. And if you have some particular applications you are interested in, then you can tell me, and I can search for some example. And the best thing that you may do today is that you can try your own examples, your own code, for instance. And then if you get plenty of errors, that's a good point to start, because in that case, we will know where to assist you. Yeah. So the main message is that you can try by yourself, and errors are your best friends, and also our best friends, because we know where the program fails. And okay, so for this part, I will talk about the very basics of Linux, and this is for making the environment even, so that all the users can start from scratch. Yes, even if, for instance, you come from a completely Windows environment and you are trying to move to an HPC environment. So okay, so I will start sharing my screen. And the first thing that I will ask you is, if you go to this website that is on the HPC2N website, and I will paste that on the chat. So if you go to that page, you will see the schedule for today's course, and also in the materials section there is a link to GitHub. So if you click on this link, you will go to this GitHub page. And if you go to slides, you will see the materials for today. And the first part is about Linux. So if you click on this part, you will see the presentation. So you can download it or view that on the Git website. So this is one thing that I will ask you to do. And later on, we will use the GitHub for getting the examples, but it will be only later. At this point, uh, I will just ask you to see the presentation, and also, if you want, you can download it. So this is a reference material. So what I will do is that I will follow a live demo instead of showing you the static example with a presentation. Okay, so this is the first part. And then the next thing that we can do when moving from a different operating system than Linux is that we need to have some way to connect to the Linux machine. So for instance, here, as you can see, I'm in a Windows environment, and I have uh, several options to connect to our cluster. So if I'm going too fast, if you need some time, you can tell me. Or if I'm going too slow, you can also tell me at any point. So for instance, here, I will try to connect to the cluster. And one way to do that, if I'm on Windows, if you are on Mac, for instance, there are other options. But on Windows, I have this program, which is called, for instance, Mobile Extern. And it's taking some time. It's coming. So the name of the program is Mobile Extern. It's free of charge. You don't have to pay. And then I start the terminal. And here I type the name of the server and my username. So can you all see the the letter size, the text, or do you need me to increase that?
See it.
It looks okay.
It looks okay. Okay, great. So then, if I want to connect to our machine, I will type SSH minus Y and my username and the name of the machine. So this is the way that I used to connect to Kebnekaise if I'm using a mobile extern. So this type of programs like mobile extern are very useful if you are going to use only text uh, upon working with Kebnekaise. So it means that if you are coding or if you are writing scripts, just handling with text, that then it's quite fast and it's okay. But I found that if you use other applications that need some graphical interface such as RStudio or MATLAB, for instance, then it's much better to use ThinLink because it is faster. And this is the case for mobile Xterm. There are other applications that you can use to connect. This is just one example. And the next application that I can show you is ThinLink. So this one. So if you haven't done that, you go to Google and just type ThinLink, ThinLink client, and you can go to this ThinLink downloads page, and here it will offer you some options depending on your operating system. So So this is quite convenient, as I said, because it's very useful and it's fast for graphical applications. Here I will type the server name, which is different from what I wrote previously. And that's because this server name, Kebnekaise, the dash TL, runs the ThinLink server. And that's not the case for the other one. So make sure that you type the Kebnekaise dash TL. And here is the password that you got from us. So if you are going to use a ThinLink, I strongly recommend that you go first to options and then go to screen and uh, unmark this box here, full screen mode. Otherwise, you will get the ThinLink graphical display in full screen mode, and you cannot escape from it unless you log out from your ThinLink session. So this is a good recommendation. So then you can connect, and I will use ThinLink for the entire Linux part. And this is the interface you get. Usually it doesn't take so long, but I have seen that uh, Kebnekaise is a bit slow these last days, and maybe because there is an issue with the file system. So this is how my thin link looks like, and this is because I have customized this a little bit. But in your case, if you are starting, you can go to system application, system tools, and then go to one of these terminals. So I am using this one, May terminal. Then you can drag the application and put that in your desktop, so that every time that you enter into the session, you can see the May terminal, and you don't have to to search for it. So this is my Linux terminal. So now I will ask you all to try to connect to Kebnekaise in the way that you prefer. You can use PuTTY, or if you're using Mac, you can use some shell from Mac. And also, if you prefer, you can use ThinLink. So this is the first thing that I will ask you to do. And please go ahead and try that, and we can help you at any time. So if you have tried that and you know how to connect, so you can press yes in the participants list on the Zoom window. So we know who have or know how to connect to Kebnekaise, and who has succeeded. So I think I will continue with the lecture, and then you can follow the material, and any point ask us questions. So I saw one question on the chat, and it's related to R and Julia. So it says that if R can be used on Kebnekaise, and that's yes, we can use that, and I will show you that later. And regarding Julia, let me see. Yeah, it seems that Julia is installed. So, but unfortunately, I don't have an example for that. So, if you have your own example, then we can tell you how to use that. But for R, I have several examples that I will show you in the last part of the course. So now let me continue with the Linux part. So as you can see, uh, it's not straightforward to go from a different operating system to Linux, and there are several issues that we will need to tackle, but there are also many advantages of using an HPC center. Uh, some of them will be covered later. We have, for instance, more CPU and memory power. So when you log in into our server, you will get this type of terminals that I showed you before. And in this particular case, I'm using the mate terminal. And it looks a bit different from what you would see the first time, and that's because I'm using a customized terminal. That's why you can see that here the prompt, this is the so-called prompt, the line where you type the commands looks a bit different, and that's I have customized that previously. And you should get something more basic. So here is my home directory, and uh, the first thing that we can do is that we can clone the repository with the examples and the slides, and I can use the command git clone and the name of the repository that is on GitHub. So if you go to the website of the course, you will get the link to Git. And here on this part, you will get this line, git at github.com, HPC2N. And I will copy that and paste that line on the chat. So this is the line is on the chat. Oh, yeah. And copy and paste this line on Kebnekaise. And it will clone the whole repository. So today it's a bit slow because usually it doesn't take so long time. But as I said, we have had some issues with the file system, and most probably this is the reason.
It says that the authenticity of the host can't be established, but that's fine, right?
That's probably fine. If it's a clone, it's the first time, that should be fine. Yes. It's the first time connecting to GitHub from that machine. It's fine.
Excuse me, Pedro?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Mirko here. I didn't realize that I have my mic mute. So if you are doing the git clone on the Kebnekaise for the first time, then it's quite commonly warns you that this is kind of first time you're connecting to this host. And in that case, most of the time it's safe. And
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm cloning the repository. So it took some time. And you can use the Google Docs documents to write your questions, because it is easy to track. We cannot see easily the chat window. Yeah, yeah, you're getting this clone succeeded, but checkout failed. We will solve this error later on. But if you get this message, it means that the repository has been copied in your account on Kebnekaise. So you can then go to the clone repository, which is called intro dash course, and then use cd. Sorry, first use cd to go to the intro repository, and then go to course, and then hands-on, and then Linux, and sorry, applications and Linux. I will copy this line on the chat. So can you all see this part? These folders, if you type this command. Okay, yes, then it's okay. So this part is okay. What I think it is as a Git issue, and we will solve that later. But well, we have already the examples. Okay, you already have the examples. So this part of the course is just to show you how to deal with Linux commands. And the first command that we will take a look at is the ls. So if you are on this path, intro course, hands-on, applications, uses, and Linux, then you can type ls, and you will get these 5 directories, 5 files, sorry. So we are sitting on our terminal, yeah, and one of the things that you can realize now is that because we are now in a Linux environment, we cannot use easily the cursor, the mouse, to drag and drop the files, and there are limited tools to work graphically with applications on the terminal. Yeah, you cannot do that. There are other ways, but it's more convenient or more efficient to use the terminal for dealing with the files and the programs. So that's why we need to navigate. The first command is ls, and it displays little information about the files. And one thing that you need to see always, or it's recommended, is to use the man pages. So for any Linux command, you can type man and the name of the command, for instance, in this case, ls, and it will display the information, detailed information about this command, and for instance, the arguments that it can take. Here, for instance, ls has a lot of arguments that could make ls much more powerful than just listing the files in a directory. So what happens, for instance, if we type the second option, ls minus l, instead of listing the file, it will show more information. And these are more detailed information. And for instance, on these columns here, the first columns, this will tell you information about the permissions of the files and the type of the files. So I'm using a color-coded format for the file, the type of files, and that's why you can see that in my case, these files look in green because they are directories. And you can see here the first letter refers for directories, and this dash means a text file or a source file, simply. But if you have a D, it means directory. And the next three characters here, RWX in this case, refers to the permissions of the file, and it tells you what actions you can take on these files. And these first three characters refers to the user, and the next three characters refers to the group, and the next three characters refers to the others, or the so-called the universe, what all people can do on your files. So briefly, this R refers for reading, and this W for writing, and X for executing. So it means that you, as the owner or the user of this file, can read, write, and execute this file. And the group can only execute and read. And the others can only execute this file. So in the case of the file.txt, the owner has the reading and writing permissions, but not executing. So these are some permissions that you can change, and this is very useful, as you will see later on. So then you get information about the user or the owner of the file. In this case, it's me. This is my username, and this is the name of the group, for instance. This is the size of the file, and this is the date when the file was later modified. So we can also add other options to the to the to the ls command, and for instance, we can use the add a for all, and this will give you all the information of the file and all the files that are present in the folder. Specifically, if we use LA, we will also see the hidden files. And these files start with a dot, as you can see here, start with a dot. So these files are useful as a configuration file for some programs. For instance, the one that I mentioned before, Git, uses some text file that whose name start with a dot, and they are used for writing the configuration for that particular application. It also tells you the number of the space that is allocated for all these files, and we can also introduce more options to this ls command and make it more powerful. In particular, instead of saying the size of the files in a number of bytes, we can use the h to write that in kilobytes, and this is much more useful. And this is particularly important if the file is big and it can be read in megabytes or gigabytes, for instance. So this is another flag. So we can also use the T option to order the files in the order of appearance. So when they were modified chronologically. So this is useful to order the files. And the last flag that I used to use with ls is the R, and it will use a reversed order in time. So it means that here at the bottom I will get the more recent modified files. Otherwise, the most recent files will be at the top, and that's not convenient for me because usually I get plenty of files, and the ones I'm interested in are at the bottom of ls, and that's why I use this tr file, tr option. So here then I will get the most recent files at the bottom, and that's very useful for me. So okay, one thing is that we can make a Linux command very powerful by adding more options, but it's not really convenient to type always these long commands, right? And that's why there is an option in Linux. So if you go to this file option here, and you type open tab, then you will get a new tab in your terminal. So, and the path is the same as the previous one. So here you can type cd, and this will move you to the home directory. So here there should be a file called .bash rc. So I will come back to this file later on, but I just want to show you one way to do a shortcut. So here on this file .bash rc, I write, for instance, an alias. I write alias, and this is the name of the command that I want to use. In this case is lh, and then equal to the command that I want to type, enclosed by this single column. No, single comma, sorry. And then the next time I use, I log into Kebnekaise, I can type, instead of this long command, just LH, and it will do the same actions. So I can come back with this setting at the end of the presentation. So that's not something that you need to do right now. It's just to show you how to shortcut commands. Because if you're repeating some long command, it's very tedious. We talked about change permissions previously, and I told you that the first three letters refer to the permissions that the owner has on the file. The next three letter refers to the group, and the next three letter to the others. So, and how you can change the permissions, I will show you one of the methods which I think is very easy, is convenient, but there are other methods that you can use. For instance, in the case of this file doc.txt, I will change the permissions with the chmod command. And if I want to give this file the execution permission, I will type U for the user group, and I will use plus for adding that permission and the name of the permission, which is execution, and then the name of the file. So if you do that, the next time you check for permissions, you will see that the execution permission has been added. So now, if you want to remove the permission, instead of plus, you use minus. So it means remove the permission. And the next time you check the permissions, you see that it doesn't have the permission any longer. So this U stands for user, but you can use also that for the group, and then this part, the next three character column will be modified, or you can use others for the rest of the users, and then this part will be modified in the next the last three columns. You can try that if you want and play around with this change mode command. At the beginning, I show you one command that I didn't explain, but I will take it back. And this is the CD, and it stands for change directory. And we can see here that we have several directories like awk, loops, and grep. And imagine that we want to go inside one of these folders, such as grep. Then we type cd, and then this will move us inside this directory. And here we can navigate again with the ls command and see what files or folders we have. So if we want to move to the parent directory, So it means the directory that is above the current directory. We type cd dot dot and the slash, and it will put us in the parent directory. Also, if you want to go to home directory, you can simply type cd without any argument, and this will move you to the home directory. If you do that, now you will be in your home directory, and you can come back to the previous directory when you move, and with the cd and the dash option. So this will move you to the directory where you were previously. A useful option is pwd, which stands for the current work directory. And if you do that at any point or at any time in your folder, you will see the whole path of the current directory. Okay, so imagine that you want to copy some file to some directory. For instance, if you want to copy the file .txt into the grep folder, then you can type cp, which stands for copy, and the name of the directory, grep. And then you can go to a grep directory and check that this file has been recently copied. So I will go to the parent directory now. And this works for simple text files. But imagine that you want to copy an entire directory. Then you can use the option copy -r, which stands for recursive option. And you can copy some folder. But I won't do that. It's just for an illustration. Then you will copy the AWK directory into the grep directory. Copying for directories doesn't work simply with the cp command, so you need to provide the -r option. So one thing is that you need to be conscious on what you are doing in Linux, because once you do some actions, you cannot revert them. For instance, imagine that I want to copy the file .txt and I made a mistake and I do readme.md. So this will modify the content of readme.md, and I won't be able to recover the content of readme.md. So be conscious about that. This is one of the dangerous commands in Linux. So is there any question at this point? Are you following this set of instructions? Yes,
Yes, and I have a
there are
question. Do you
people
want me to ask it here or in the
following that.
document?
So anytime you have a question, the goal of this course, this part and this course is that you're able to use our cluster. Yeah. So this course is for you and to make the things even for all of you. Okay, now we have seen how to list the files and how to move to the directories, but we also need to create files. So if you want to create a file, an empty file, use the command touch and with some name for the file. In this case, I will call it a touch txt. So remember that in Linux, the ending of the files are not that important as in Windows, where you need to put some suffix for the file. So in Linux, you can call a text file .txt, .dat, and whatever you want. So it's not that important as in Windows. So I created this file, but if I use touch, it will be empty. So as you can see here, it doesn't contain anything. I just created the file. So for creating a directory, we can use the mkdir, which stands for make directory, and some name for the folder, like test or whatever you want. This will create a directory. Once you create a directory or the file, you can use the command rm to delete them if you don't like that or what you wrote, or you don't need the file any longer. And this will delete the file. And this works for regular files. But if you want to delete a folder, then use the rm -r. And I also use the f option to force the removing of the files. And then we can use the name of the directory. So again, for directories, the simple command doesn't work. You need to provide the R option, -R option. And sometimes you need the F option to force the removal of the files. So be careful again with this command, because you cannot recover the content of the directory once you delete it. There is not a garbage option to put something that you don't like, as in Windows. Here, once you use the rm command, the files are deleted completely. Okay, so now these commands look very simple, but there is an option in Linux which is called Wildcards that allows you to deal with many files at a time by using simple commands. And let me go to the AWK directory. And inside this directory, I will go to working files here. So imagine that you want to list uh, all the files that end with a txt. So in this case, I can use the wildcard star as follows: star and then txt, and it will list the commands, all the files that have a txt at the end. So what is the meaning of the star wildcard? It means 0 or any number of characters. So in this case, it will get all the files that have a 0 or any number of characters, and after that we have the txt string. Or for instance, imagine that we want to list the files that start with the string file and then end with the string txt. In this case, the files start with the file string and end with the string txt. So it will list only the two files, right? So this is very simple, but imagine that you have plenty of files, PDB files for protein conformations, or you have many files for gene sequences, and you want to list some files that have a particular string, and then you can use this wildcard to make the listing, the printing option faster, instead of going to each file manually. So there is another option, which is for using a single character. The star is for using 0 or any number of characters. But if you use this option question mark, then it will mean only a single character. I see. Okay, so it's mean okay, this is just a single character, and that's why I need here the dot, just to include the dot. Otherwise, there no file will be listed. The okay, the next uh, wildcard is the brackets, and here we can use a sequence of numbers or a sequence of letters. For instance, if I type a sequence of numbers from 0 to 9, it will list the files, file 0, file 1, txt, file 2, txt, and so on, if they are in the in the current directory. But because in this case only have two files, it will list just the two files. So we can use a combination of these wildcards and make our ls command more powerful. Okay, we'll return to the parent to the Linux directory with this command cd dot dot slash and dot dot. Okay, so my next command will be the soft link, and it creates a pointer to a file or a directory. And it works in the following way. So you provide a source file and then the name of the link. And this is useful, you will see that later, because it will allow you to access some pathway, some remote directory in an easy way. So you don't need to type every time the name of the long directory. So the way to use that is to provide the ln command with the option est for soft link and the name of the file. In this case, I will use file.txt and the name of the link. In this case, I will use the link name. So now I can use the ls minus l larht, which in my shortcut it is lh, and you can see that we have added a file called link, which is just a pointer to the real file, which is a file.txt. So here you can see that it has the property of a link. This is not a directory of a standard file. So what is the point with using link? Is that you can modify a link instead of file, and the changes will be reflected in the file as well. For instance, let me open the file, and you can see that I have the hello world option. And imagine that I open now the link. I have this option, this text, and I will write here a new text. So if now I open the file, then you will see that new text has been added. Although I haven't edited the file properly, I edited the pointer. So this brings me to the next point, how to edit files. And as you have seen here, I have been using the nano command, which is an editor, a standard editor that is included in the core of Linux and should be present in most of the distributions. And here you type nano and the name of the file, in this case nano txt, a file txt, and you can add your text. Here at the bottom, you can see the options for nano, and if you're happy with your changes, then you can press Control X here, this option, and this caret symbol means Control X, and it will ask you if you want to modify the buffer, and I will reply yes, or simply enter. And it will ask you for some file name. In this case, I will use the same file name as is what given in the nano option. And now the changes have been written. You can see that there is a new line here. If I don't change anything and I press Ctrl X, nano simply escapes from the interface. So there are other options in nano, like get help, replace, where is, And this editor is very convenient when you are starting with Linux, because it's simply writing and editing and then saving the file. That's okay. The point is when you want to deal with large files, and these files have some structure, like for instance a PDB file or a gene file, or maybe some other file that have a structure, and you want to correct some specific part for the file, and these parts are big. For instance, imagine that you want to move one column from one place to another place, the entire column. Then doing that with Nano is a very tedious task. And there are other options that I won't show you today. And one of them is, for instance, a VIM. I will just give you the name, VIM. Or there is an Emacs editor that is much more powerful than the simple Nano. Okay, so now let me go to the some other command that is more elaborated than ls or cd, and it is the grep command, and it works as follows. You type the grep command and then some string that you want to search in a directory or file, and then you use the name of the file or the directory where you want to search for the string. So this command here, grep, with this option, will search for the string in the file.txt. So if it finds that then it will tell you where that string is. And in this case, I don't have that string, but I will include one at the bottom here. And then now if I search for this string in this file, this will print out the line where the string was found. And in addition to that, because I'm using a color-coded shell, then it will put some color on the string that I search for. So imagine now that you want to write the output of some command like this one into some text. For instance, imagine that you are searching for some gene sequence or some particular atom in a file, and then you want to write the output into some other file. Then you can use a redirection command, which is this symbol here, is greater than, and the name of the file where you want to put the output. For instance, file.out. So this will redirect the output of grep into this file.out. Now, if we look at the content of file.out, you will see that you got this string. So in case that this file exists and you want to add content from some command. So you can use this double symbol here, double graded done, to append the results. So it won't override the content of file.out, but it will only append the output. So because I'm doing the same command and repeating that, I expect to have 2 lines. So this is very useful if you want to add content to your file. Okay, so I think we should have a coffee break right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we can have a coffee break at this point, and this will be a 15 minutes coffee break, and then I can return and give a brief summary of this part of Linux, and then my colleague will continue with the introduction to HPC2N. So some other commands of Linux are in the material that I presented to you. And the most important part of this Linux section is that you were able to get into our cluster and also to type ls cd and this command. That's the main idea. For the other commands, they are more elaborated, and if you have any question, then we can discuss about that later on. Okay, let's take a 15 minutes break to take